It's 7 o'clock on Tuesday, Monday, March 31st. And tonight we have on the agenda is, first thing on the agenda is review of the warrant. So, Mr. Town Manager, you're up.
All right, so I'm not familiar with what process you use in terms of reviewing the warrant. You go through, basically go through every article, I presume?
Yep.
And that's what I did with Bill Rico as well. So do you want me to just kind of walk through it, and then do you guys go through the whole warrant in one night, or do you do it?
We do it all in one night.
Okay.
Because we have another meeting.
Let's try.
All right, well, that gives me an idea of how to go through it then. So what I'll do is I'll go through the table of contents, and then on the articles, I think that you're not just, house cleaning stuff. I will go into more detail, but so obviously Article 1 is dealing with the election, so that's not really something you deal with in the warrant per se. Article 2 is just a statutory requirement to vote on elected official salaries, and that hasn't changed. That is the same. This is on TV, so why don't I put the warrant up so people who are watching can see it.
Do you know when it will be mailed, by any chance?
Yeah, I have it on the, it goes out, it has to hit the mail, it has to hit the house 2 weeks prior to town meeting. So that Friday before 2 weeks, or that Thursday before 2 weeks, I think, is when we're sending it out.
When is it posted online?
Actually, I think there's a draft of the annual out there right now, but I'll post these tomorrow.
Okay, so people can
They can see it,
get on
yeah.
the town website.
Yeah, the board hasn't voted on it. I think they're gonna vote on it, on the whole thing on the 9th. That's the next meeting, so. And then, the printer needs it by a certain time. So, but the key is to get it out. Let me just go to my calendar and look. Okay. Oops. Okay, so to the printer, it was supposed to be on the 3rd, but the printer always asks for it too early. Hold on. So the 21st is when it has to hit the mailboxes and it has to be posted. So we'll be sending it out probably on the 17th so that they'll get it on that Monday.
But that 21st is a holiday, though.
So they should still get it. I mean, if we send it out on the 17th, they'll get it. They could get it on the 19th. I guess they could, 21st. What holiday is that?
I don't think it's federal.
No.
Oh, yeah, it's not federal.
I don't get
It's
it.
just paid, it's just,
Yeah,
Yeah, it's just a local holiday.
right.
yeah.
Which holiday is that?
Patriots Day.
Oh, Patriots Day, right. So, yeah, so then it'll hit, most people should get it before the 2 weeks out.
Yep.
And let me just call up the warrant, so here it is. So the first article, or the second article, I should say, is the salaries, and nothing has changed. All those salaries are the same. And the salaries are mostly the elected officials. In fact, that's what it is, the elected officials. And so here you have the select board, the school committee, the planning board, the moderator, and the board of health are all elected, and they're small stipends that probably haven't changed for years, I would imagine. Article 3 is going to be a consent agenda. and it's going to include Articles 21, 22, 23, and 24. And all these sort of annual items that business that the town meeting takes care of. One is to accept the annual report. One is to reauthorize the town to enter into lease purchase agreements. The other is to authorize the acceptance of Chapter 90 funds, which there's a question that we might not have to do that anymore, but I'm going to check with town council on that. But either way, I'm leaving it on the agenda. Doesn't hurt to vote on that. And then the other one is to reauthorize revolving funds, and that's a funny thing because that was something that the legislature did a few years back, and they only authorized. They tried to eliminate you having to do this every year, but they only eliminated. I believe the definitions piece, and you still have to set the amounts each year. So I think the hope was that you only had to set if you were going to change it, but you still have to do it every year. So, but it is sort of an annual house cleaning item, so that's on the consent agenda, and that's the same consent agenda that the town had last year. So nothing new there.
The numbers on the right there are the same as last year?
Yes. So then, that's the consent agenda, the consent calendar, and then Article 4 is the budget, which we've gone through quite extensively. So that is the only things that have changed on the budget, the general budget, was the board, the finance committee had asked to reclassify that 90,000 from IT, from police over to IT, which we did. Unfortunately, it changed the indirects, so we changed the bottom number, changed by a couple of $1,000 to the good, actually. So that's good. But so if you. Sorry, so the budget is in the warrant, and the bottom line number, hold on. Oops, should have brought my mouse.
I think you just one more page.
Oh, that's DPW.
Yeah, one more.
Okay, so the bottom line is net of allocations 145,418,104. That's the bottom line number of the budget. I think when I brought it in before, it might have been 145,420. And then Article 5 is the sewer enterprise budget, and this is no different than what I presented to you earlier. So it's a $7.2 million budget. The rate for this that the board already approved is 2%. So that's a very minimal increase for the sewer budget. So Article 6. So this is something somewhat new probably for you as a town and as a committee. So we're using overlay surplus to provide some rate relief in FY 26 and 27. This came about the board's desire to see. Obviously, they've been investing $5.4 million a year plus the 1.5. That's $6.9 million a year. And that puts a strain on the rate. So particularly in the next 2 years. So what we did was the Board of Assessors declared a surplus, and there was $800,000 is being used in 2 fiscal years, 400 and 400, to offset the rate increase. And what's happening there, I think I explained this at the last meeting, I'm not sure, but what's happening there is we're going to, the plan moving forward is to use the sewer debt on the general fund and kind of flip it and use that for the water, because taxpayers are already paying that amount. So this will allow you to buffer the impact over the next 5 to 7 years of all this debt that's coming on, the 5.4 million a year.
Right.
And it isn't just 5.4 million, it's 5.4 million, 10.8 million, 15.16 something million. So it's going to add up. But the that will help to buffer that. So I did some rate. Do you want me to put up that spreadsheet that shows how I did that? I can do that if you'd like.
Sure.
You just have to bear with me because my.
Do you guys want me to tilt that a little so we can see it?
Yeah, that's a good idea, Rob, thanks.
Oh, is that not? Water enterprise.
Awesome, thank you.
Boy, almost don't need glasses.
Okay. Okay, so here it is. Okay, good. I was looking at the wrong row. It was 40%, 42. What happened to my spreadsheet? So what I did was, if you can see, this was, Richard gave me this rate sheet, and so it's a great tool. So I've been messing around with it and trying to meet what the board wanted to do, which was to, have a minimal impact on, not minimal, but at least a reasonable impact on the rate. So where we started was 11.5%, and so FY26 was projected to be 11.5%. And what I did was I included, and I made an assumption that we're going to hire personnel in the future, because in order to do all these jobs, you're going to need to hire personnel. So I built that into the future budgets so that I'm capturing all the potential expenses because of the work we're doing. And then I also, let me see if I can find that just so you can see it. Here it is, additional staff. So in FY20, assuming that in FY27 we're going to hire additional staff, and I put a number in of 153,000. So that might be one a project manager that's an engineer, and there's obviously legacy costs associated with that position and everything else. So I built that into the budget, and then what I also built in was some revenue based on what the state hospital would bring in. And then this is the 400 and 400, the 800,000 that we're taking out over 2 years in order to provide some rate relief. So what that allowed us to do was go from 11.5% to 6.5% in FY26, and then in FY27 we could probably do, provided everything is static, we could do 6.5% again. And then what happens is the debt, the sewer debt that starts to come on, it becomes more significant in FY28. So, and I have that here somewhere too, debt per principal and interest. So you can see that this debt goes down because we're using debt from, supplementing with the general fund. So,
And then we'll supplement less the sewer because the debt's coming down. Is that the gist?
So this is, I'll show you, this is it here. So see these numbers here? So in FY '27, the sewer debt goes down by $55,000. That's not much. So there's no real impact in '27. But then in '28, it starts to drop precipitously. So it drops almost $1 million in '28.
I know.
And it drops again 1.8, and then it drops. So it continues to drop. And so then what I do is I roll that in and use that, instead of lowering that commitment to debt on this, the general fund side, I just keep it flat. And that way there's no adverse impact, but no one's getting any money back either. But on the other hand, it does stabilize the rates. And one of the things people complain about, obviously paying more taxes and stuff, but one thing people appreciate is predictability and consistency. So it's one thing to go from 0, 0, 12. It's better to have a steady rate increase so that people can plan accordingly and have expectations. So that's what this does. It gives you 6.5, 6.5, then 3, 3, 3, 3, all the way you get out to FY '33. And then what you'll see, if you go down to that number that I was just showing you, all of a sudden that number starts to stop dropping off as much. It goes from 3,148 to 3,156. So what's happening is you're getting less of the benefit of that now, and more burden, so you have to pick up a little bit more of the burden on the rate. Again, these are just projections. It's a 10-year projection, but I think it gives us at least a good plan moving forward as to how to manage the impact of this level of work on the rates. And this is something I did in other places as well, the debt stabilization fund, in trying to keep the impact on the levy stable. And because a lot of times what communities do is they let their debt service drop, and then when it drops, that money goes to other places, and you can never recover it. So what you try to do is hold on to it by continuing to appropriate that same number, even if you're just putting it away in a debt stabilization fund, because that way it's committed to capital investment. So that's kind of what we're doing here, and I think that's a good plan. And I think the board was happy with that, and that'll keep the rate at least manageable. And 6.5 is a lot better than 11.5, and that's really the story with the water budget. You guys have any questions about that?
No, that's great. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for showing that.
Whoops. I just ditched something. I called the warrant back up. Okay. So that's why, so that the funny thing is that, so $400,000 is going to be appointed to the Water Enterprise Debt Relief Fund. And I'm having a conversation with town council about this. We might change that to the Debt Stabilization Fund. I was trying to avoid that because debt stabilization requires a 2/3 vote. So I don't like to put anything that into a fund that requires a 2/3 vote. However, in this case, it's probably not a real fair on my part because nobody's going to not support a vote to provide rate relief, But I just fundamentally, I bristle at the idea of putting money into a locked box that you can't get it out. But either way, we just want to check with DOR and make sure that whatever fund we put it in is appropriate. So that the name of that might change, but the intent is the same. So that's $400,000. So what happened was the Board of Assessors, they declared surplus of $1.1 million. So 800 of that 1.1 million is going towards this. 400 is right in the motion for the water budget. So if you look in the beginning, that's sewer. Good, that's good. I'm glad it wasn't water because it doesn't have anything in it. Let me look at, so it's this way.
Next one.
Yeah, so if you look, it says 9.7 million to be raised and appropriate, and to transfer and appropriate the sum of 400,000 from overlay surplus. So that's one piece of the 800, and then the article above it is is the other piece, and that goes into a different fund because we're not in FY27 yet, so I got to put it somewhere. Otherwise, it will get swept up by free cash. And, there's variables there I'm trying to avoid. So I put Article 6 before Article 7 because in theory, if town meeting supports Article 6, then the whole plan is sort of in play. So then the next motion for Article 7 should not be an issue. And I don't imagine it will be, only because the whole thing is to provide rate relief.
So but we do have to account for the full $800,000 now?
Yes. So if you left it alone, you would have to sweep it into free cash.
Oh, yeah, we don't want to.
Yeah, so that's why we want to just grab it, and even it goes into debt stabilization for water, at least we know it's in the intended purpose
Yep.
place. It might be a little difficult to get out, but it'll be in the right place. And I think I said this before, the reason I'm using overlay surplus is because it'll keep stability in the reserves we have, and where we're going out to market every year for $5.4 million, I just want to have stability in our reserves, so when we go to rating agencies, they see that. So then Article 8 is the Stormwater Enterprise Fund, which we've gone over, and that's pretty vanilla. It's the 779,800. And then there's 400 that's for capital, and that's part of the revenue. It's not coming out of a retained earnings. It's the money that's raised this year. Article 9.
If we could just, on the stormwater enterprise,
Yeah,
that fee is something we might have to look at next year. Though.
we definitely have to look at it next year. Yeah, we're going to have to, what I should probably do is come in to you and maybe before the budget season starts, maybe early fall, and start talking about how we want to handle that, because we're not going to get away with another year at the same rate that we're at. So the superintendent of Public Works has a few ideas about ways we can enhance the revenue. Not necessarily just the rates, but revenue through the way we define certain things. So I'll be back in the early fall to do that with you guys.
Is that due to like capital things that we might need, or what? Because I forget our conversation from whenever we reviewed it, but if you look at the numbers here, it looks like our revenues are way more than our appropriation by 400,000.
So we generally do that 400, yeah, and it is, but the 400 is being used to fund a stormwater project.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
And every year there's always a comparable project of that nature.
Gotcha.
So that level of revenue has sustained the budget such as it is, because it's expenses, but it also sustains a capital project too. So Article 9 is cable, and this year pretty stable. We're just, our revenue is certainly sustaining that. We are about to enter a new ascertainment process, I believe, for Comcast, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the future in this industry, because I guess Tewksbury is your subscribers are going down, but they're not going down as much as they probably are in some other communities. But they're still going in the wrong direction. So, and you can see that in the revenues. But the revenue we have is still enough to sustain the level of operation that we're currently doing. So, and then the other piece is that there is a strong reserve, a strong retained earnings for, it's over $2 million, I believe, in the cable funds. So Article 10 is really just, house cleaning. It's just moving that $31,000 to reduce tax exempt debt principal. We just use it to lower the levy by $31,000. And then Article 11 is just establishing the housing trust that 5.6 million is balance that's available. So every year you have to reestablish that trust. So that's what Article 11 is doing. Article 12 is also doing is just appropriating the admin piece, which is the 53,000, which I believe is 5% of your fund can be raised for admin. And then you have to put aside 10% in each category. So 10% is of the 1,069 is 106,000. So 106,000 is going to open space, 106,000 is going to community housing. And then we don't put anything in historic preservation because we're currently paying debt for the town hall project, and we're adding in the Ella Fleming project. And the town hall project is about $300,000 that we'll be committing for debt. So what we do is we take then next year it's going to be double that because of Ella Fleming. It's going to be 600. So we move 600 out of the unprecedented account, or what do you call it, the unlabeled account? I don't know, that's not the right word, but it's and move that into that reserve, but it basically pays the debt. So that's what that article does. And really the only piece in this article that affects anything is the 53,000 is raised by appropriation.
The Affordable Housing Trust Fund as a whole, is any of that did we use any of that for the Veterans Place?
I don't know if they did. I can find out for you. I'm not sure if they did. I judging by the balance, probably not. But I do know that they will probably use a significant chunk of that for the Trahan project. The board did select a proposal for that, and we're in the process of negotiating an agreement with that group. And they did, one of the pieces of their proposal was the town making a commitment to the housing piece, the affordable housing piece, and it was significant. So
this, and you say so if you're not at liberty to say so, but is this the one that they would reuse the existing building?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so he actually ended up, it was kind of, yeah, I think they were kind of moving the other way, and in the end they picked the one that they were reusing the building. I think primarily because it was providing more housing, and that was ultimately the goal. And yeah, I think it was senior housing. So I think that'll be a good project, and then the town will make a significant commitment, and I believe it would come out of the Affordable Housing Trust. And you know, there'd be some good housing that comes out of that.
And they'll still have the open space there that...
Yeah, I think they've talked about putting a playground in over there too.
I think they have a...
Yeah, just
I think
clean it up.
They have to keep there.
Yeah, I think that was part of the proposal.
Yeah,
So, so that's...
that was good.
So that's that. Then Article 13, probably one of the bigger ones, is the capital article from being appropriated from the stabilization fund. And so the amount is 1.9,1985, and the balance in that account, and I'm going to show you, I put a table together that shows all of the balances and everything from town meeting. I used to do this where I was too. Richard did it too, but he did his in not in a table format, but he basically listed it out, each one. So I'll show you what I did, and it might help. I think it's a great cheat sheet for the town meeting because it shows you the balances of every reserve account and what's coming out, what the ending balance would be. And people use it to decide whether they want to support something or not.
Oh, that's great.
So the Article 13, the big pieces are DPW, Obviously, sidewalk construction, $250,000. A truck for the highway division. A liquid brine production system for snow and ice, which will be good for a new facility down there. A Bobcat for water sewer highway division, which I believe is split between the three retained earnings, and general fund. So that's $70,000. The asphalt roller, that one's split as well, that's $25,000. And then in the fire department, we have a new ambulance coming. That new ambulance is going to be delivered soon, which is unusual. Usually there's a 2-year wait of late, and that's going to be delivered soon because the chief got that one. It's in stock. It's already built out, so that'll be good because we have another one that we haven't had taken delivery on yet. So we'll be taking delivery on that one fairly soon, and when we get this one, that will replace the 2 frontline ambulances, which are kind of in dire need of being replaced.
Nice.
We lost the 5th ambulance. We just took that offline, I think, this week. Not worth putting more money into it. So, but we still have 2 backups. But you'd be surprised at how quick, something can happen, and you end up down more than you'd like to be. So though that's a great move by the chief to be able to score that ambulance in such short order because since COVID you haven't been able to get a hold of these pieces of apparatus.
So those older 2 ones, would they be just used as backups, or would they be in use at all?
So the 2 the 2 frontline ambulances that are
New ones.
they'll become, not the brand new ones, the ones that are on the front line, they'll become the backups. And then the current backups, I think, I'll have to double check it, but I think he's either going to trade them in or sell them. So, because we won't need to hold on to, he'll probably, even if one of them is suitable, he'll keep one for a fifth line, but get rid of the other 2. One of them doesn't sound like it's worth a lot of money since it's not, we don't want to put anything into it. And then there's the fire station renovation study. That's a $58,000 appropriation to study. Is it which station is it?
North Street.
North Street, okay. And I was by that one the other day. That's an interesting looking building, that North Street one. How old is that station? Do you guys know?
That, I don't know, but the land was donated by Wang Laboratories when Wang was there.
Oh, okay.
And that was in the 70s.
Okay. And so they're looking for a new command vehicle, which is $160,000. That's the fire department. And then new radio box repeater, $30,000. And then in the facilities and grounds, there's police station anti-ligature toilet and sink combo replacement. It's $102,000. Senior center's heating and boiler system. I can tell you from my own personal experience, that needs to be replaced. I was down there. It wasn't working earlier this week. So
I feel like we replace that every year.
It does seem like.
I think they did they do the water boiler? I think there was the water boiler last year. But yeah, there's some issues down there that.
I think she was saying last week that it's over 12 years. It was over 12 years
We
old.
repaired it or something.
Yeah, I suppose.
I think we've just been throwing.
Money at it.
Yeah.
Yeah, we threw some money at it this week, so.
Great.
The South Street Fire Station heating system, I think that's the one we get some money for. So that was originally a higher number. We lowered that to 131. Parking lot at the State Field at Livingston's recreational complex, that's 150,000. So that will get done. Everything on this list was everything that was on the CIP for the FY26. So we're capturing everything that was requested by the department heads. So that's pretty good. $1.985 million.
And there's nothing new on here that we haven't
No,
reviewed from the,
only that the number dropped a little on one of the quotes.
okay.
Let's see. The next one is this is the school piece. This came in late for some reason. Right now, the request is $123,000. I think they're a little inundated with some of the capital they've been doing with those insurance claims, and there's an issue at the high school that needs to be addressed, but there's money still left in the article for the high school. But there's an issue with the floor, and not that is no, the center school, not the high school, that I don't know whether it's structural or not, but it's something that needs to be addressed. But this is just to do upgrade wireless access points and firewalls at all the schools except for the new school. It's $123,000. That's coming out of stabilization as well. Article 15 is this is being submitted by the select board, and this is the study that was requested by the facility study group, $300,000, and that's the last piece of the overlay surplus. So that's 1.1 million for that, and then the study is 300,000, and this is intended to basically assess some of the options available to the town. What's the best way to handle the situation? So there was an interesting group, very good qualified group of people that had many diverse opinions, and they talked about the idea of doing renovation additions, trying to take advantage of the buildings that we have that are 20 years old or less. And obviously the big issue is the two elementaries doing in Heathbrook just have well beyond their lifespan. So replacing one of those outright would seem to be a very big expense, and how does that compare to looking at some of these other options? So that's what this study is intended to do, is try to answer some of those questions, keeping in mind that you want to, whatever you do, and it says it right in the article, is to make sure that that addresses long-term program and educational needs in the town in the most cost-efficient manner. So, well, obviously the solution has to be advantageous to the system, to the programs, but obviously we want to try to do something that's cost-effective. So that study, I would imagine, will take a few months, probably 6-7 months. So the money is available on July 1. They'll probably be done by December. And if the town wants to submit a statement of interest letter, that fits with their timing for January is the time when the statement of interest letter would go in to the state. And just so people are listening, I don't want anyone to get anxiety, because to any type of bond that was issued for any type of project is not in the cards for 7 to 10 years, even if you're on a fast track. And if you go out and you look at our debt schedules, that's actually a good thing. We'll be in a much better place 7 to 10 years to issue bonds on another project. I think I mentioned this before, what's just amazing to me is that 70% of the debt in the town will come off the books in the next 10 years. So that's a great position to be in, and it's a credit to Richard Montori and the work he has done in this community. So that's Article 15. Article 16 is another capital article for sewer enterprise retained earnings, $775,000. There's a piece of that asphalt roller, a piece of that Bobcat in there. Pump station improvements for sewer enterprise, that's $350. II money, $250 to remove II, and then $105 for a utility truck. That is actually, I think that's just one piece of it. The other piece is in the water capital article. So that's $775,000. And then Article 17 is $825,000 coming out of water retained earnings, and you can see the other piece of that F550, the 105, the asphalt roller and the Bobcat is split there as well. Then $150,000 for hydrant replacement and water treatment plant and tank maintenance upgrade, $500,000. So that's the biggest piece of this, and that's for the water department. So those are the three capital articles for the town: general fund, sewer enterprise, retained earnings from sewer, and retained earnings from water. And then stormwater, as I mentioned, there's $400,000 being spent for two projects: the drainage improvements and upgrades, and project development, which is engineering costs. And Article 19 is at $5.4 million that they are appropriating annually, so they will do that again. And I was encouraged by, when we went out to bond this year, we get 2.65% on that bond, which is really good. And then the Article 20 is $1.5 million, and that's the last. That was spread out over 3 years, so that's the last issue of that that $1.5 million. So those are the two bonds covered for capital for water. And then you start to get into, that's it for the financial articles. The first 20 articles are all financial. And then the Article 21 was worked on by our town clerk, Denise. She put this together. This is some changes to the dog bylaw, and it has to do with kennel definitions. And there was a recent project proposal that was a little bit difficult because the definitions weren't as clear as they should be. So this is a response to clean up the definitions of the kennel and clear it up and make it consistent with the state statute. I don't anticipate this to be an issue, but this could be just one of those things, at town meeting that you spend a lot of time on. You never know. I'm hoping not, but it is. That's what precipitated this. It was a realization that it needed to be more clearly defined.
So this is making us more compatible with Mass
Yes.
law?
Yeah.
Just curious if there was a ask for over 15 dogs, because I noticed before it was prohibited. Or what?
I don't think there was actually an ask. I think that from a pragmatic standpoint, it was decided that just made more sense.
Okay.
But there's no limit.
1,000 dogs, $300.
Yeah.
You're not living next door to me.
Yeah, I think I'll, before town meeting, I'll have to get really into this one, and I'll have Denise involved in it too, because, yeah, that was a question.
I'm
that'll probably
anticipating
come up.
questions.
Yeah. So, anyway, we'll see, that's an interesting one. Article 3, I already went through. Then Section 3 is all the zoning bylaws. So the first one being the MBTA Communities Act.
There's the night right there.
Yeah. So that one starts, that'll be the first one on the second night.
Good.
And that is the map, 26 and 27 of the zoning and the map. And they're exactly the same as they were last year. I guess the talking points are that, it's going to come down to were people did they not like it because they wanted to see what happened with the court case, or did they just not like it? So if the court case was relevant, then the court case has been resolved, and then you should move forward. But if that wasn't the issue at town meeting, then it probably, I don't know what direction it'll go in, but either way, it's out there. The town is right now in what's called an interim compliance because everything's filed. So our our ability to be awarded grants, of which we were awarded one in the last 2 weeks. So from that perspective, from the management perspective, that's a good thing. So we'll just have to see where this takes us and go from there.
I'm
Sure.
gonna step on the third rail for a second for this one, John, because I was trying to keep track when each department was making their presentations, and they would reference either state funding or state grant that they were utilizing. Like the library utilizes a small one
Yeah.
like every year, and we're kind of relying on it. And I think I kind of asked the question, but I don't think I asked it directly enough. So I guess my first question is, we're in interim compliance. When does that change again? Like, when's the next time the town would need to do something?
So I think the deadline is June 14th.
Okay,
So if you have not complied by June 14th, then we're out of compliance. But if town meeting passed something, if they pass this, then we're all set because we'll be in compliance by the 14th.
right,
If they do not pass it, then we will lose compliance on June 14th.
okay. So if we know, assuming that we would not be in compliance as of June 14th, do we have any indication as to what that might mean for state funding that we'd either be anticipating or that we previously relied on?
So we've received some sort of warnings, like the public safety grants that we received. They initially, I think, we're going to hold those up,
Okay,
and then they backed off and said, no, we won't. But next year, if you're not in compliance, we will.
okay,
So those aren't huge grants. They're, $25,000, $50,000 grants. But then there are other grants. I mean, it's just, the problem is you don't know. It's such untested territory. You don't know, what they're going to do, which ones they're going to, because they don't say straight out, we're going to hold everything up. They say potentially we could hold up grants in all these areas.
right.
Housing being one of them. Mass Works grants.
I think it would be helpful, and I think I'm speaking more as maybe a resident now than as a member of this board. I would find it helpful to have a list of the potential grants that we currently receive and that could potentially disappear. Not to fearmonger, but
I do have that list.
perfect. I think that would be an important thing for the residents to know. I certainly would be interested in knowing, like, worst case scenario, if they took everything away, this is what we're looking at. And the follow-up to that is, I know when we were reviewing the town council, the budget that included town council, it kind of struck me at that time, like, have we gotten any type of guidance from town council as to what happens if the town doesn't comply with MBTA community? Because I think I asked the question, or someone asked the question, like potential liability and what that cost could look like. And I would be really interested in knowing what town council's kind of advice and guidance would be as to, if we don't comply, this is what you could expect in the range of litigation that the town would be facing.
Right.
And, because that, to me, again, finance committee, like, we all, I think, would want to know, what's that litigation going to cost us that we would need to be sitting
Right.
here figuring out?
So if we enter into a lawsuit so there is currently a lawsuit, Wilmington's involved in it. And then obviously Milton had a lawsuit. I think they spent $300,000 plus on that lawsuit, and they lost miserably. But I think the exposure or the risk is that nothing we do would be covered by insurance, so the legal exposure is 100%. What we do with that, obviously, if the town decides to pursue legal action, that could become costly. I don't know what the number would be, but depending on how long it went on, would there be other communities? It looks like most of the communities are coming into compliance, so at the end of the day, I think there's going to be a handful of communities that are not in compliance. And that makes it more difficult for those communities because it's always, strength in numbers. So I think those are factors that the town, those are things that should be brought up at town meeting, because I think that's important to help people make their decisions. My perspective is very pragmatic because, I just see that if you don't do it, it's probably going to happen anyway. If you do it, then you avoid all the legal costs, and you have some control over what's happening. But I also understand and respect that the select board's position is they don't feel that this is a fair statute, that it was done the wrong way, and they are philosophically opposed to it. And I think that's kind of where town meeting was last time.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if they're still in that boat and they're not in the, let's see what happens with the litigation boat, then you probably expect the same outcome. But, you know, I guess the best we can do is try to have as much information as possible available so to help people make their decisions.
Thanks. Yeah, I would appreciate that, because I do think, again, I think I'm pretty pragmatic like you, and
Yeah.
sitting on this board, obviously, we care about kind of the financial liabilities that we could be dealing with.
Understanding the risk exposure, as
Yeah,
you said.
so I
is-
think it would be helpful
Yeah.
if, we had some guidance from town council as to like, this is when you open yourself up to this type of litigation, the expectation would be it's this number of hours of work or whatever it might be, just to have an idea of not complying would cost the town this
Right.
range,
Yeah, that would be quite valuable to have
I think
Yeah.
so.
prior, that'd be quite valuable to have prior to town meeting. Probably, if we could have it for the public hearing,
Yeah.
that we go in
I think
the
that'd be
articles.
great.
Oh, yeah, okay, I'll see what we can get. I mean, I have to be careful not to be advocating one position or another.
Yeah.
No,
Well, that's why I asked.
Yeah.
It's just information.
Understanding
Yeah.
the risk exposure to the town
Yeah.
from a financial perspective.
Right. Okay, I'll see, I have it, so we'll put it together and send it to the
And
board.
then
Yeah.
whatever happens, happens.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah.
That's our democracy.
that's all.
Yeah. So that's Article 25 and 26 and 27, right?
Yeah.
And then 28 is a floodplain district, I believe this, so they redid the maps after a million years, the federal,
Is there a better place to see that map?
You looking at?
is it on the, it must be the second, it
That's
must
not
be,
that one.
that's it there, right? Okay.
Yeah, this one here.
So, yeah, it must, I'll make sure that, you're asking me, is it online somewhere where people could?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's,
where I could actually see it.
we can see it.
Yeah, you know what, I'm sure it is, but let me make sure that it is, and it's, so when I put these out there tomorrow, I'll make sure that there's a map that's
Thank you,
legible
thank you.
for this one, so Article 29.
And that flood thing is to stay in compliance with National Flood Insurance.
Yeah,
Yep,
Seems important.
so I'll tell you a personal experience, I'll make it short, but do you remember that storm, the storm we had in March a couple of years ago, and we got like 7 inches in 2 hours? So, Billerica Lake Tewksbury is like, it's just water everywhere in Billerica. And I was really impressed with how accurate the flood maps were that were done. It wasn't even the FEMA flood maps, it was another one. And they didn't make a lot of sense until we got that rain event. But the water went exactly where they said it would go.
Wow.
So these floodplain maps, they have a lot of value, and it was really fascinating to see that. So someone like me who's a geek about planning and stuff, and that stuff, it's, pardon the pun, it seems dry, but it's an important thing to have an up-to-date floodplain map. Article 30, is this the,
yeah, it's the new zoning stuff for new districts.
oh, yes, yeah, for the by right, right. So this is basically a response to, and this is Alex is doing a great job with this, and Steve, basically allowing things by right that we see coming in that are, people want economic development to happen, and you have to try to work on the things that a hot, right? And for lack of a better word, and so cold storage is hot. But as people come in and they ask about that quite a bit. I don't know exactly why, but cold storage. Maybe it's because of the Amazon world we live in, and I don't know, but there's a demand for more warehouse storage of cold things. So we're trying to allow that by right. Data storage is another one. As AI and all that IT stuff ramps up, that's going to become more and more in demand. And in this region, not as much as in other parts of the country, because they have huge data centers in other parts of the country, but they still need it here. So it would be great if we could get a hold of some of that, because the tax revenue from data storage is immense, and it's not a very burdensome use. I mean, there's not a lot of employees that go to a data storage center. Light industrial warehouse use. So these are all new definitions that are adding battery storage. As you know, there's someone considering that. And I know there's some concern about that type of use, so we're looking into that as well. But these are all things that I think are hot in the being allowed by right. But allowed by right doesn't mean that they're not reviewed. They still go through site plan review. There's still an opportunity for a local board to require mitigation from a petitioner. So that's what the essence of that article is. Trying to streamline and attract some economic development that's hot right now. Article 31 is the message board. Oh yeah, this is to clean up. It's an omission. So basically, Starbucks and Dunkin' Donuts, those electronic signs, there's no allowance for them in any zone. So this just cleans that up and allows them in the zone. So if you want to get your cup of coffee in the morning, you better vote for this one. Article 33 is a change to the town center district, and that is to remove parcels from the town center district and include them into the residential district. So that was submitted by the planning board. And is that the last one? No.
That's the last one.
That is the last one. All right. How about that?
Town meeting.
1 hour. Let's do that. Oh, do you want me to show you that table that I've been putting together?
Oh, sure.
See if I have it here.
Battery storage sounds interesting.
A lot of revenue in that, I'll tell you that. Okay, so what I did is, so these are all, going across the top is all the different funds. The only one not up here is OPEB. And then I put a raise and appropriate column in because a lot of these finance articles are raise and appropriate. So the budget, sewer, water, stormwater, telemedia, even that little piece of CPA. And then this is the 400 from the stormwater. Those are all raise and appropriate. Then as you can see in free cash, we only have 600,000 in free cash. Oh, I still have to go over the special for you, but.
Yep, that's okay.
So, and this is really the special, these two. Snow and ice deficit, we're taking 586 out of free cash to deal with the snow and ice deficit. And then 13,000 we're taking to pay prior year bills. So we carved out a little piece to pay prior year bills because you can't pay them with anything else. You can't pay them with FY26 funds, so but you can pay them with free cash. So that's what we're doing there. And then sewer retained earnings, we went through that, you can see those two. And you can see the balances. So sewer's very healthy, water retained earnings is healthy as well. And there are some stabilization funds in both of these as well, so there was very strong retained earnings for sewer and water, which is a good thing. Stormwater retained earnings, about 1.5, but nothing's really coming out of that this year because that 400,000 is going to be raised. Cable retained earnings, about 2.7 million, and we're not taking anything out of that. Stabilization fund, 20.2 million, and we're taking the 1.85 and the 123 for the school and the town. And then this is just showing you the Affordable Housing Trust balance, 5.6. And then CPA open space reserves, we started at 148, we had the 106, you end up at 255. CPA housing reserve, you started at 1.1, add the 106, you end up at 1.2. Historic reserve fund, so I left this, I started at 0, because right now in this year's budget, it's 305, and we clean it out to pay the debt service in FY25. So then it starts at 0 again. Then we'll take 675 out of the undesignated fund, and then that'll be used to pay the debt service for FY26. And then undesignated fund, you can see we're taking out the 675, the 106, the 106 for 8883. That leaves you at 1.784. Overlay surplus, they declared a surplus of 1.1 million. We took all of it with the 4, the 4, and the 3. And then the bond premium, just 31,000. And I showed the borrowing too, 5.4 and 1.5. So that's all, that captures all the financial pieces. And I'm going to put that in the guide too.
Excellent.
Just to figure out how to fit it all in.
One page.
I think I'm just gonna cut it in half, put one under the other, because I love it this way, but you can never read it when you put it on a page.
Exactly.
Yeah. Magnifying glass.
Yeah, so doing that, and then let me just bring up the special.
Yep.
Water articles. I don't already have it up. Here it is. Lucky me, it was already up. So I resent it to you because I had an error in the top part of two of these articles. I didn't change the current year amount, so that's okay in this one, and it's okay on your computer, but it's not okay on the hard copy you have. So I had left the previous amount in here for like Article 2 for last year. So 586,046 is the amount we're taking from snow and ice and transferring it into, or taking from free cash, putting it into snow and ice. And then that 13,000, that's right here, and that's being moved to pay these bills, 13,000 out of free cash. And then the transfers between budgets, this is the budget transfer article. So it's 1.1 million in surplus articles being transferred to other accounts. So the big ones are Shawsheen, school group health. So that 3920, the school group health is going right into, there's a large chunk of this going into the school budget. 275, 225, 75, 75. And that has to do with a lot of these out-of-district tuitions that have happened. And my big question about this was, is this an anomaly? Is this a structural deficit? Because if it's a structural deficit, we have a bigger problem. So we looked into the future a little bit. Dave seems to think that that some of these special ed out-of-district tuitions will be falling off, but you can never predict who's coming on. You can see who's coming off because they're going to age out of the program. But but you can have you could have a good year, you could have a bad year. Unfortunately, we've been having several bad years, but right now it looks like if things don't go haywire, we should be okay with the budget we have for FY26. But something we're watching closely. It's not something unique to Tewksbury. I went to the superintendent's legislative breakfast last week, and there was a bunch of communities there that were talking about this issue, how they're all struggling with keeping up with these costs. Special ed is like 40 to 50% of any budget, any school budget. It's insane. That's the IEP program for a student is a special ed program. IDEA is special ed. And then all these out-of-district tuitions, transportation associated with the out-of-district tuitions, all that stuff is adding up. And so it's becoming, I think, untenable for communities to deal with, and something we have to keep a close eye on and figure out, how we can approach it in the future. But I really think the legislature needs to step up and address. Chapter 70 goes up 3% a year, but education costs go up 7%, so we're not keeping up with what's going on, so we end up picking up that burden. So that's the biggest piece of the transfers, but I did put in tentatively a $40,000 appropriation for Northern Middlesex Rec in case we have to pay. There's a heating issue going on over there, and they have a shortfall in personnel that's been training their budget. And what I've noticed about that program, and sort of still in its infancy, is that they don't really have any reserves. We put some reserves in next year's budget, but the budget that we're in, if something goes wrong, there's nothing to do. Now, you would think that in a building that's 5 years old, what's going to go wrong? But apparently they did have an issue with the heating system that we're currently struggling with. And then there was another one a couple of weeks ago, and it was a $12,000 expense. So I don't know if we're going to use that, but this is the only opportunity I have to address it. So I put it in the transfer in case we do need it. I think we're in a better position than Drake it is. So obviously we wouldn't bear the full burden of whatever that, if anything did happen. But I just want to be prepared if something happens. So I put a little piece in there for that. And then all these other transfers, assessors regular salary, that's dealing with the retirement, administrative service regular salary, I think the same thing. And so looking through this thing, snow and ice, so that's how we dealt with the remainder. So snow and ice was more than $600,000 this year, but we were able to cover it with some of these transfers. Town Medicare, $30,000. Council on Aging repairs and maintenance, $31,000. So there was we've done some work over there this year with the pool room and some other stuff over there. So we're just paying some of those bills, and I think those are the biggest ones. Essex Aggie, there was a few extra tuitions in there that we didn't know, weren't aware of, couldn't account for. So I think those are the big ones, and then where it's coming from, the big ones are the health account and Shawsheen. Shawsheen's assessment changed after you guys set the budget last year, so there was a number in there. So that number, most of that's going to the school department. And town group health, there was some money left in that one. Solid waste, that has to do with the volume of trash went down this year, even though the contract has gone up. So we're in pretty good shape. We had enough money to cover the issues that we had, and they're all not surprising issues: overtime because we're short in police, and school budget because of the things I've mentioned, snow and ice overtime, and some other projects we're trying to button up before the end of the year. And I think that covers, there's only 3 of them on there. And, yeah, that covers all of them.
So that'll go fast, and then we'll sit and wait for
Then we'll
the...
sit and wait. Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I'll make sure that both of these go out and that we get the maps out. In fact, what I'll do is maybe anything that has a map, I'll see if we can put a better map out,
Yeah, that would
Yeah.
be helpful, thank you,
Yeah.
John.
which would be any of the zoning articles, so.
Okay, so that's it for warrant articles. No transfers, right?
Oh, I don't think,
I didn't see any.
did he give you, did anyone, because I kind of thought
Didn't see any.
Al had me sign one, but,
Nope.
yeah, all right.
We have a recording secretary timesheet to ratify in the amount of $370.07.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Not voting? Yep. Approved 3-0. Then we have the minutes from March 17th. Last meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
I won't vote, I wasn't here.
No, you can still vote,
I
as
can.
long as you read them.
I did, they looked fine to me, but.
It sounds like
All right.
sounds like an
I will vote
aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks, Dave, for the encouragement.
That's approved 4-0. So our next meeting is the public hearing, Monday, April 28th.
Sounds good.
Wow,
So
that's impressive.
all 4 of us are going to be here, right?
Yeah,
We better be, we've lost a
I
couple
know.
people.
So I will just be getting back, so I'm going away from the 19th to the 26th, I think. So I'll be back for that, that's great. And I'm getting, so the warrant and I'm gonna try to get the guidebook done too before I leave. So I'll try to have everything done, because I don't wanna have that hanging over my head when I'm in the Caribbean.
You want to
Yeah.
relax.
Trying
Yeah.
to enjoy yourself, yeah.
Exactly.
Okay. Nothing else? Any motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
All right,
Aye.
thank you.
Thanks, John.
Unanimous vote. Thank you, John.
All right.